we love to see how celebrities right now, especially, are using their platforms, using their voices to be a part of these important conversations too.
Very true, very true. Ariana Grande, one of those celebrities. On Tuesday, she sent a food truck and coffee trucks, well, food trucks and coffee trucks, to help voters in line in Kentucky, to basically give them some food, make sure they're hydrated, make sure they have everything they need so they can make their voices heard. There were voters that were in line at the Kentucky Expo Center in Louisville, Kentucky for the Democratic primary election. Now, when Ariana announced that this is what she was doing, she retweeted the Black Voters Matter account, which posted about Election Day in Kentucky, and she wrote, quote, "Send some food and coffee trucks for everyone waiting in line. Please pull up, enjoy, and use your voice today. We need you." Now, the Black Voters Matter account also shared the information so the volunteers and everyone can see what Ariana was doing. But what I loved about this is that Black business owners are the owners of these food trucks and these coffee trucks. And they thanked Ariana for showing support to Black businesses and allowing them to also serve their community at this time. So I felt like she thought about this in a number of ways, you know?
100%. That's what my first thing was, is she is doing so many important things with this act. One of them being, yes, supporting Black businesses right there. Two, drawing awareness to the importance of voting and encouraging people to stay in line, stay at the polls, make sure their voices are heard. And three, also drawing awareness to the situation that was going on in Kentucky this week with voting. I mean, the Kentucky Expo Center was one of the main polling places in the state because thousands of other locations had to be closed down because coronavirus concerns, lack of volunteers. So as you could imagine, the lines there were hours long. People were waiting in line. I mean, it's hot down in Kentucky right now. We're in the middle of the summertime. You know, we're in the middle of a pandemic. People are wearing masks. There's a lot of people around. So she's doing such good work with that action right there, and I applaud her for it. I mean, she's always been someone who's used her platform for good to draw awareness to these important issues, these important topics that we're talking about right now in our country. And then also celebrities like Ava DuVernay, she used her social media platform to draw awareness to you know, these lines, and also a topic of conversation yesterday too, citing voter suppression, which is also something LeBron James tweeted about too. How there's so many polling places, but yet very little amount that are open, and all of these long lines. And then also what happened in Kentucky too, which was crazy, is the polling places closed at 6 p.m. Literally, they locked the doors with still hundreds of people in line who wanted to cast their vote. So what ended up happening is a judge signed off on allowing the polls to open for 30 more minutes, which allowed, many other additional votes to be casted in. But it's just like, if you are waiting in line, if you are expressing that right to vote, you should be allowed to. And it's just crazy to me that these things are still happening.
Yeah, welcome to America 2020. I think it's important for us to talk about actual numbers here. So it was reported that more than 3,000 polling locations in Kentucky were reduced to 200, which is wild, right? And many critics are calling this a case for voter suppression. Ava DuVernay, who you mentioned, she went on to note that in Jefferson County, where half of Black voters are, they only have one polling place for how many people? 610,000. In a day, people have work, people have families' responsibilities, and of course, allegedly, it's being blamed on coronavirus, issues, trying to work around that, or the lack of volunteers. But this lends itself to a larger conversation that, as you mentioned, LeBron is having. So many celebrities, and not even celebrities, activists, people on the grounds. Stacey Abrams, former Democratic nominee in Georgia, she tweeted this. She said, quote, "Voter suppression is no longer billy clubs and Jim Crow. It's closed polling sites, plus 6-hour waits without pay. COVID is no excuse." Right. So according to people and the leaders in our community, in the Black community, based off of their knowledge of how all of this works, this is systematic. This is just another example of systematic racism and how Black lives are not valued. And that means Black voices are not valued.
Right.
And I'm just so grateful that so many eyes are on the whole Black Lives Matter movement right now, because we are able to clearly see what we have been going against and dealing with in this country. You mentioned LeBron James. On Monday, he teamed up with a number of athletes and they launched a website called morethanavote.org. And basically it asks visitors to sign up to learn more about systematic racism and more about voter suppression. And it also gives you an opportunity to see if you're registered to vote, and also gives you details on how to vote. So celebs are doing their part, but this is when we say it's more than a protest, how we have to do more than a protest. This is an example. Once the protest does what it has to do, does its job, there's policies, there's things that need to be changed that are ingrained into our society. And right now, we have to work on it.